Thank you very much. Boy, 2020 was a weird year. Most of us got stuck at home and we were looking for some things to do to kill the boredom of the COVID lockdown. Some people started watching a lot of Netflix. Some people were playing a lot of video games, or at least buying video games, and I'm looking at used Steam sales and my library of games that I bought and I will never play. And some people started gambling. I mean, day trading, because this is how it's officially called. For me, 2020 was a bit special. That was the year when I released my first side project that was supposed to bring me some money. You see, as a software developer, I always had this dream of having a software side project that I could build once, and then I could infinitely sell it to people and make money without having to do any more work. My dream came true in the second part of 2019, when I had some free time and I was wasting it on day trading, so buying and selling individual stocks every day. I was picking up stocks based on something called technical analysis. So trying to predict how a given stock will behave based on how it behaved in the past. And there are many tools to choose from when you are doing technical analysis. One of the tools that I chose was called harmonic patterns. And with harmonic patterns, it boils down to the fact that if, can I get my mouse here? Yes. If the price goes up, then it goes down by the certain ratio of the previous movement. Then it goes up again by some certain amount of percentage, and then it goes again down. Then there is a higher than usual chance that the price will go up again. And I mean, the details doesn't matter here. Day trading is not a good way to spend time or money if you're bad at day trading. The point is, I didn't know it's a bad way to spend time. So it was me sitting in front of my computer and drawing those stupid lines, trying to figure out which stocks will go up, which stocks will go down. So I decided I'm going to automate the drawing part. And like most of the day traders, I was using TradingView platform for analyzing stocks because it's a free-to-use platform that works in your browser. So I wrote 2 scripts to automatically draw those harmonic patterns on the chart. And once I had those, I was thinking, maybe someone will pay me some money to use the same scripts, because harmonic patterns is not something that I came up with. This is one of the technical analysis tools that has been around for many years. So I created the website. I connected Gumroad to collect payments. I published some articles explaining how to use my scripts. And I published some posts on TradingView to promote my scripts. And I waited and waited and waited. And around 2 weeks after I published my website, I got the first sale. And I was extremely excited. I mean, it was $29 that I still had to return later because someone asked for a refund, but it was the first time I got some money on the internet selling software, so I was very thrilled. So I immediately started imagining all those cool things I'm going to buy myself with my new sweet passive income. Except that this income wasn't passive and wasn't that sweet either. I started getting a lot of emails with questions. And it doesn't matter that I had some articles and videos explaining how my scripts work. Most people, well, some people still prefer to ask me questions instead of trying to find the answers. Another common email was to get free access to the scripts. So I started getting emails from people saying like, hey, I am a poor student, so I cannot afford your scripts, but I still want to gamble with my money. Can I get free access? And some people ask for new features. Sometimes those features made sense, but most of the features that people requested were something very specific for their use case and not something that could be useful for others. And then, of course, there were people asking straight away for financial advice, like, should I buy this, should I sell that? I tried to answer most of those emails because I really wanted to explain people that if they don't know what they are doing, they should not be using my scripts to blindly buy and sell stocks. But that was taking time, and quite often I would exchange multiple emails with someone, and in the end they didn't turn into a paying customer. When I was not answering emails, I was doing other fun stuff like fighting chargebacks. So I tried to be nice to people, and whenever they asked for a refund, I was just giving them their money back with no questions asked. But still, there were people who, if they didn't like the scripts, they didn't even bother contacting me. They asked for a chargeback immediately. So I had to document everything to my payment provider, and I won all those chargeback cases because that's not how chargeback work. You should kind of try to reach out to the merchant first. But I still was spending time documenting all the communication with the clients and things like that. And I also had to deal with fraud when people try to use stolen credit cards. For example, I got this one guy who seemed to be a nice customer because we exchanged a couple of messages, but then one day I got a message from Gumroad saying that he requested a chargeback. I asked him what's going on, and he told me well, this is his wife. He forgot to tell her that he bought this TradingView script, and the wife asked for a chargeback. Okay, a bit suspicious, but it can happen. And then I got another message from Gumroad saying that he tried to pay with a stolen credit card. So I asked him, why is your wife now using stolen credit cards? But he never got back to me. And then I started a new job. And so I completely gave up the day trading because it was not worth my time. But I still had people sending me all those emails with questions or asking for trial access. And the worst part was I lost interest in this project. I wasn't using my scripts anymore, so I didn't want to spend time and energy developing them. So I felt I was burning out on this project, and I had to do something about it. My first idea was to sell it. So I posted some ads with all the information on some of those websites that you can use to buy or sell businesses online, but I didn't really get any serious offer. And in the hindsight, that was kind of expected. People want to buy simple, low-risk projects built with boring technology that are easy to maintain. My project was written in an esoteric language called PineScript that is only used by TradingView. It was running on TradingView, which is a proprietary platform where you can be banned for whatever reason and then suddenly you lose access to all your income. And it was also targeting a kind of niche traders. So no one really wants to buy things like that. So no one wanted to buy my project. I didn't want to work on it either. But I also didn't want to close it because at that time it was bringing me around $500 per month. So I decided to do what probably every programmer would do. I was going to turn on the autopilot and automate everything. So I had to automate the way of giving people access when they pay for the scripts and to remove their access when they stop paying for scripts. And I also needed to find a better way to give people a trial access for 7 days instead of them having to send me a message, me logging to TradingView, clicking things, etc. I could write everything in Python, but I didn't want to do that. I was already looking for an excuse to test one of those no-code or low-code solutions like N8N, Make, or Zapier, where you just connect different blocks to integrate with external services. I would still have to write a bit of Python code to interact with the TradingView API or website, but everything else, like sending welcome emails for the users or processing notifications from Gumroad, could be connected without writing any code by using those code blocks that they offer you, integration blocks. I decided to try N8N because at that time that was a truly open source project, so it cost me nothing to give it a try. So my first task was to automate giving people access to scripts when they pay for it. People would go to my website, and there they could buy access through the Gumroad. And when they did, I used this feature called Gumroad Ping, where Gumroad would send you a request to a webhook that I had in N8N. Then N8N would run some Python code, grant access to the user, and send them a welcome email. So I started by writing some Python code to automate the interactions with the browser. And for that, I used a library called Puppeteer. And this is a library that offers Python bindings for Puppeteer library. And Puppeteer is something that you use to control the browser automatically. So here's the code to log into TradingView. As you can see, here I have some environment variables. We go to the login page. We click on login with email button. We wait until the form loads. We put in the username, password. We click the button, we wait for 3 seconds, and then we are logged in. And this logging function was used, for example, to give people access. So we would open the browser, we would log in, and then I would call a helper to check if the user has access. And this helper method looks like this. So here I prepare the payload with data, and I send this data with a post request using some JavaScript code. It looks like a terrible overkill, but because I'm executing JavaScript code in the context of the browser that I have already open, and I'm logged in, I don't have to worry about setting the correct headers, session cookies, and things like that. I just copied the parameters that are being sent when I perform the action manually in the TradingView website, and I submitted the exact same parameters with JavaScript, and it just works. Now back to our add access function. Here is the actual whole body of this function, but that was a lot of code. So in terms of pseudocode, this is how it works. So we basically open the browser, we log in, we check does the user has access, then we return here. Well, no, we print the message. We return. If the user doesn't have access and we requested the trial access, we give them access for 7 days. Otherwise, we can give them access until a specific date, because sometimes I give people access for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on what they ask. Otherwise, I just give them permanent access. And just to make it easier to run my functions in N8N, I added a CLI so I could simply run my Python scripts from shell. So here I added click, and it's a very simple command. I just parse the username, script, and until, which can be T for trial or some date if I want a specific date. I just parse those parameters and pass them to my add access function. Similarly, to remove the the access from the user, I just pass the username, script, I run the function, and that's it. So now that I had the Python code, I could put it inside the code block of N8N, and all that was left was to build the rest of the workflows around it. So here's the full workflow. Not this button. This button. So here you can see we get a webhook that gets the request from Gumroad. We set some parameters. We check if it's a recurring payment. If it is, I just send myself a notification saying that someone is still a subscriber for another month. Otherwise, I send myself a notification saying I have a new user. I execute the script to give them access. I send myself another notification, and based on whether this is script 1 or 2, I send one of the 2 different welcome emails, and then another notification for myself. For notifications, I decided to use Telegram, because I already was using Telegram to chat with people. And with Telegram, it's very easy to create a new bot. You just start chatting with this bot called BotFather, and you click create a new bot, you answer 2 questions, and you get back API key to control your bot and a link to the chat to start chatting with your bot. And I was sending myself a lot of notifications on Telegram, so basically after every important step of the workflow, and that was to make sure that everything works correctly. So for example, if I saw on Telegram that I got this notification for new user and the access was granted, but I didn't get the last notification, I knew that something failed with sending the email. So now I had to send the email manually and figure out what went wrong. And once I got everything working on my computer, I was ready to deploy my application. I had a very small VPS from Linode that I was already using for some other projects. So I decided I'm going to host N8N there. And that was like the cheapest $5 per month server, and it was still more than enough to run N8N. So I followed the guide explaining how to set up N8N on DigitalOcean using Docker Compose, and even though the tutorial says DigitalOcean, you can use whatever hosting you want. It's very easy. It's a tutorial that is easy to follow. And the tutorial also recommends using something called Caddy, which I didn't know before, but it's a very nice reverse proxy server that will automatically handle the SSL certificate creation and update, so you don't really have to worry about those things. There was one problem though. Locally I could use whatever Python packages I wanted, but how do I get those packages installed for N8N on a remote server? And I thought, well, I'm already using Docker for N8N, so I can just create my own Docker container with all the necessary packages, and that's what I did. So the way it works is that I start with N8N base image, then I install Python and a bunch of dependencies, including, for example, Chromium. Then I install stuff from the requirements. Yeah, here I install the pip packages, then I copy the rest of the TradingView API Python code and I run it. And I didn't want to build a Docker image manually, so I added a GitLab CI workflow that will automatically build and store the Docker image in GitLab image registry. So with that GitLab CI in place, if I needed to fix some bug or maybe update the version of N8N, all I have to do was to push new code to GitLab, then GitLab would build a new Docker image, and then I had to update this image on the server. And to do that, I could SSH to my server, run the docker pull command and restart the running containers, but I could automate that too. There is this really nice tool called Watchtower that will check, is there a new version of a Docker image that you are using? And if there is, pull that version and gracefully restart your containers. And the best part is that you don't have to configure anything for Watchtower to run. It will use the Docker API to see which Docker images you're using, and it will automatically check for the new versions from wherever they are being pulled from. So here's my Docker compose file. So first part is related to N8N, and most of it is just setting up some environment variables. And then this part for the Watchtower, I just copied it from the documentation, and it just works. So now, if I want to update my code, I can modify it and test it on my computer. Then I push it to GitLab. GitLab builds the Docker image, and after around 5 minutes, the new version of Docker image is automatically deployed on my server. And that was it. So each time someone bought a subscription on Gumroad, this workflow would automatically give them access on TradingView, send them a welcome email, and send me a Telegram notifications for every step. Then I automated the trials, so I don't have to manually go and give people 7-day access when they ask. And that was also a huge time sink because not many of those people actually turn into paying customers. So I created an online forum where people could ask for a trial for one of my scripts by simply leaving their TradingView username. And then those usernames were stored in Airtable spreadsheet, which is quite popular tool for having like Excel spreadsheets that are connected to third-party applications. And then I created a new N8N workflow that basically, if there is a new entry in my Airtable spreadsheet, run my script to give people 7-day access. And because Airtable doesn't have a way to prevent people to submit the same username multiple times, people started submitting the same username multiple times instead of paying for the subscription. So I had to replace Airtable with JotForms, which works in basically the same way. So you have a form, whatever people put there can be validated if it's unique, and if it's unique, it ends up in a spreadsheet, and that triggers the N8N workflow. Okay, and the last step was to deal with the cancelled subscriptions. So from time to time, someone would decide to not extend their subscription for a new month, so I had to log into TradingView and revoke their access to one of my scripts. I could not use Gumroad Ping because Gumroad Ping works only for new subscriptions. I could use the full Gumroad API. So Gumroad has an API, like fully-fledged API that you can use to get basically any information about your product, sales, customers, and whatnot. I could query that API on a regular basis and see, has someone recently canceled their subscription? But that was much more complex than using the simple webhook, and I didn't feel like implementing this whole API support only so that once or twice per month it will automatically revoke someone's access. You see, Giving people access is kind of an urgent thing. Like, some people are very impatient, so they will buy a subscription, and if they don't have access after 5 minutes, they will send me an email saying, hey, I paid and I still don't have access, is this scam? Or something. And that was a big problem when I didn't have this automation in place, because as most of the people, I sleep during my night, and some people buy access when I sleep, and I was waking up in the morning to an angry email saying like, oh, I paid you, it's been 1 hour and I still don't have access, give me my money back. And I'm like, dude, I just wake up. So giving people access is urgent, but removing access from people is not urgent. Like, people won't send you an angry email saying like, I stopped paying and I still have free access to your products. That's outrageous. No, if people have access for 1 or 2 more days, they don't care, and I also don't care, because it costs me nothing to keep them in the system for a few more days. So I didn't need to automate removing access. All I had to do was to make it more convenient for myself. So I needed to find a better way than having to open my computer, log into TradingView, and remove the access. So I decided I'm going to use my Telegram bot to do the work for me. So I created another very simple workflow that allows me to send messages to my Telegram bot. So whatever I write to my Telegram bot, it will be passed to this CLI script, and then Telegram bot will send me back the output of the CLI. So for example, I could write to him, remove user A from script 1, and then he does that and he sends me a confirmation. Sometimes I would also get messages from this guy saying how someone requested a trial form, someone bought a subscription, things like that. And the best thing was that I had Telegram on my phone. So when I get an email from Gumroad saying someone canceled their subscription, it took me maybe 10 seconds to revoke their access, because all I had to do was to type the username and the name of the script, and it was done. And that was it. And I see that I'm very good on time. So I gradually stopped answering emails from people, especially those window shoppers that would just ask you hundreds of questions and then never buy anything. And because I stopped updating my scripts, they no longer appear like a new and fresh, so I don't get many customers nowadays. But I don't care. This year I spent maybe 1 hour on this project, and it was just to answer some emails from the existing customers or revoke some access. I will keep this project running until it stops bringing me money, and then I will just probably close it. I started building this project in 2020. So you might be wondering, how did it stand the test of time? How much work is there to maintain this kind of automations? Frankly, not a lot of work. So I haven't touched the code for more than 2 years, and I also haven't updated N8N for 2 years, and everything just works. So once I put the initial effort to automate everything, it just works. I learned a lot with this project, so here are a couple of things to keep in mind if you're thinking about monetizing a side project. First of all, building something that someone will pay for is hard work. Maintaining this thing is even harder. People will ask for features that don't make any sense, and when you say no, they will get angry, they will go to Gumroad and leave you 1-star review. You can write documentation, you can record YouTube videos, you can write description on TradingView, and people will still come to you with an email saying hey, how does it actually work? So no matter how much effort you put, people will still ask all sorts of questions. So you need to set boundaries, otherwise those potential customers will take much more time than you're willing to spend. I genuinely like to help people, so I try to answer most of the emails, especially when I thought that my scripts are not a good thing for them because they don't know what they are doing. But that was taking way too much time. So I started telling myself, okay, I'm only going to answer emails from non-customers once per week, then once per month, and so on. And yeah, maybe I lost some potential customers, but I also got so much free time and so much focus back that it was completely worth it. Another idea is to put some small obstacle for your potential customers to filter out the worst ones. For me, that was the trial form. So I had a simple trial form with just one field to fill in, and in exchange you get like 7-day access to the scripts. No questions asked, no credit card, no anything. Then I posted description in the trading view saying, hey, if you want access, if you want free 7-day access, go to this link, leave your email. I had this on my website, and still I got a bunch of people saying, hey dude, can I test this script? And trust me, you don't want to deal with those people. Like, even if you start answering their emails, they will just waste a lot of your time, and quite often they will not even turn into paying customers. And just for comparison, the majority of my paying customers, they never send me any emails. They have been paying for months and for years. They never ask any questions. So you want to really filter out the worst people. And maintaining a project that you no longer use is even harder because you lack passion for it. So when I started, I was building this project for myself. I thought I had a lot of enthusiasm, I had plenty of ideas, and I thought I'm going to use those scripts for many years. Half a year later, I'm not using those scripts anymore. But I still have paying customers, so yeah, I have to either give them money back or maintain it somehow. I was lucky because it was easy for me to automate this project. And I'm not saying that you should automate a project without even having first customers, because you might waste even more time without the market validation. But just be prepared that you might lose passion for your project at some point, and at that point it's better to have some automation to make your work easier. And I was also hesitating if N8N is the best tool to use when I started automation. I was thinking, what about Zapier, what about Make, Huggin, or hundreds of those tools that are out there? What if I hit some limitation and I have to switch to something else? Well, it turns out it doesn't matter. You don't have to choose the perfect automation tool from the get-go. You can start with one tool and switch to another. You can actually use multiple automation tools. You could, for example, start with the free tier of make.com, and so you don't have to maintain your own N8N instance, and only when you exceed the free quota, then you decide, do you want to pay money or do you want to actually switch to N8N? So don't sweat too much about like picking up the best tool. And that's all I have prepared for today. If you like this story and you want to learn more, I actually have 2 articles on my blog post. One is more technical about the automation. The second is more about the interesting stories from this project, how people were writing me emails in Turkish or asking me if I want to work full-time writing Pine scripts. So it was an interesting story. I recommend you to read it. You can find the repository with the code from this presentation here. This is not the code behind my project, but this is enough code to give you an idea how to automate something like that. Here are some attributions. Yeah, if you have any questions, we have time for questions. Otherwise, here are the slides. You can find me on LinkedIn or on my website. You can rate my talk here, but I will go for some time here, and I will switch to that other QR code in a few minutes. Thank you for listening.
So thank you, Sebastian. As he mentioned, we have some time for talks, and I already see raised hand. So yeah.
I'm just curious if you had any feedback from your clients, if they gain something from using this technical analysis in day trading with your program, comparable to without.
It's hard with one microphone. So I got feedback from people saying like that those tools were useful for them. I got feedback from people saying like those tools were completely a waste of time. I could see it based on how long people were maintaining their subscription. So I assume that if someone was a subscriber for 3 years, they were benefiting from those scripts. So I was mostly seeing based on the churn rate of people if they find it useful or not. I also got some like messages from people saying, "Oh, this is a great script. Thank you for creating that." But I think it's not a magical script. It's just a tool to draw lines on the charts, and how you use it is more important than what the script actually does. Do you have any other questions in the room? I'm gonna switch to the rating